Brad Thomas here with The Street. I'm here today with Scott Peters, CEO with Healthcare Trust of America. Scott, good to see you today.
Good to see you.
Scott, the healthcare sector has been performing very, very well of late. Year to date, the healthcare REITs have returned around 25% year to date. It's amazing numbers out there today. Tell us a little, what is driving this healthcare industry today overall?
Well, I think it's the view that yield is something that is very attractive to investors. And the healthcare sector has always been defensible. It's been a steady income for investors. And specifically in our sector, the medical office building sector, we've seen the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
And I think folks have seen that there's a lot of fundamental changes that are going to tremendously help this sector over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Sure. So in terms of supply and demand in the industry today, is there much construction out there? You know, what are the fundamentals like?
Well, there hasn't been much construction in any real estate for the last 4 or 5 years, and certainly the medical office building space is the same. It's
Right.
very tough for developers to get financing. They really can't do any spec development anymore, where there's no leases that are in place before they build it.
Right.
And for our view, there's still great opportunities from a leasing perspective on campus. The other big thing that has happened to the medical office building space is that it started to move around. You know, with the Affordable Care Act, the sole practitioner, he's pretty much determined that he's either selling himself to the healthcare system's bringing him on campus, which is where we like to own assets, on campus.
Right.
Or across the street. The physician groups are getting bigger, so they've combined themselves. So over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen a realignment of where physicians and healthcare systems are putting folks in order to service the Affordable Care Act with the 30 to 40 million more folks that are going to be insured starting in 2014. So this is a process we're going through. We seem to be a very good beneficiary of this realignment of where folks are located.
Sure. What I really like about the sector, and again, I cover about every sector today in real estate, is that the leases, in terms of a lot of the triple net REITs have longer term leases, more bond-like leases, but you have annual increases, so you've got a lot more growth built up in terms of your internal growth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we've got 2 or 3 things that I think are favorable for us. Number one is that we do have triple net, single tenant, long-term leases, predominantly with the healthcare systems. We have 58% of our annual rent income credit rated. 42% is investment grade. Most of that investment grade rent is with healthcare systems, and they sell us the asset, they lease back the space, typically do it for 10, 12, 14 years. Very stable, good credit, and they have 2-3% bumps. So that's the annual bumps. Then we have a blend of the multi-tenanted asset, typically on campus or across the street, 5, 10, 15 different types of tenant users, physician groups or individual physicians or so case. And those have 2-3% bumps. But the nice thing that we see is that those are typically 3 or 5 year leases.
Right.
And so as they roll over, as the demand continues to grow for on-campus locations, as the size of the tenant continues to grow, we think we can move rents. Rents have been constrained for the last 5 years, and that's a great opportunity for us to have internal growth.
Sure. And talking about your management model, one thing I also talk about a lot is you've got REITs today that have internal management, REITs that have external management. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the externally managed model. I want you to talk a little bit about your internal management, because you started, I believe, external back as a non-traded REIT. You've internalized the company and your management team. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I agree with you. I think external management is different because, number one, when you're internally managed, you're working hand in hand with the shareholder, and that's the whole focus of what we do as executives and people who are employed by a company. So we have a completely internalized. We also have an asset management team that's internalized, which means that we get to directly relate to, interact with our tenants, with the healthcare systems. We get to remove the third-party fees that are paid to someone who basically oversees these operations for you. It's more efficient. When you're personally focused on something, when you spend 100% of your time on it, That's what we do. We're not a diversified healthcare REIT, so
Sure.
we do medical office buildings, and 12.8 million square feet, that's what we worry about. We don't have other types of asset classes to worry about. And I think that that generates the best results for shareholders.
Sure. Well, I think Mr. Market really is in favor with pure play today. And Scott, it's good seeing you today. Healthcare Trust of America, $3 billion market cap, 4.5% dividend. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.